Homosexuality.
I believe it was Chuck D who first said, "Man to man, I don't know if they can. From what I know, the parts don't fit." Powerful stuff. In the wake of Vince McMahon's alleged use of a woman's head as a toilet substitute in recent years, a changing of the guard has swept the WWE. Not only is real-life Tom Wamsgan's equivalent Triple Nose now in charge, but the general creative direction of the promotion, or lack thereof, has changed as well. The style is different, the approach to storytelling is different, the themes and nuance, if professional wrestling can even have such things, has changed. Let's call a spade though first. Wrestling has always been rather homoerotic.
Homosexuality.
People, typically of the same gender, play with each other on a mat, and most of the time are half naked, in either tights or undies. At a glance, yes, this is clearly going in a certain direction that the people of San Francisco would approve of. But over the years, the arts of storytelling and performance have allowed it to often largely disconnect from such connotations, allowing its talent to look like fighters, superheroes, performance artists, comedians, and a whole host of other things. But lately, at the tippy-top level, the mainstream commercial lane of the WWE, we've seen a change taking place. The Triple Nose regime constantly reminds us of how fake their shows are, ensuring we're constantly thinking about the fact we're watching half in the buff folks play with each other rather than engaging with the stories being told in a sensible fashion like a fan should. And then there is the stories themselves, many of which have a strong emphasis on so-called friendships, sensitivity, and most important of all, my feelings. There was a time where the WWE ran angles over all kinds of nonsense. Every angle on a show was different, stories ranging from serious title chases and grudge feuds to comedy props and general hijinks. In Triple H era WWE, though, the main things that all wrestling angles revolve around, without fail, are feelings and very strange takes on friendships, or dare we just say, relationships. We're going to go through a few examples from recent memory, and we're going to see what conclusions we can draw. So let's start with a very obvious, very recent one. Karrion Kross versus Sami Zayn. Earlier this year, Kross developed a strange, rather unhealthy obsession with the former El Generico. Oh, but wait a second. Generico's teaching orphans in Mexico how to wrestle. Ha 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 ha. F*** you. Kross wanted Zayn to admit to his true nature. Now what could he mean by this? Let's look at the Zayn character, shall we? He's a sensitive fellow, with his promos frequently revolving around his emotional anguish and general status as an outmatched underdog between the ropes. During his time in the Bloodline, he seemed to be almost infatuated with Roman Reigns. Now let's not beat around the bush. The tribal chief is a handsome man, and Zayn's eyes were filled with adoration and, dare we say, lust. When Reigns, a master manipulator at the time in kayfabe, wanted Zayn to help end Kevin Owens' career at Royal Rumble 2023, notice what he says to Zayn. I love you, and Zayn is conflicted. Notice the next month at Elimination Chamber, their title match. Zayn is hyping himself up, constantly going to his wife for support, as an amused Reigns mimes kisses at him. Just what did the OTC know that we didn't yet know? And in the years since, as a babyface, Zayn has frequently shown off his sensitive side, constantly in his feelings, doubting himself, torn apart emotionally. It's worth remembering that while Zayn is from Canada, the land of the limp-wristed rainbow, even more so than the UK, he is also a Muslim, and well, officially, backdoor shenanigans are frowned upon quite heavily in their culture. We'll just leave out what often happens to young boys in Afghanistan or throughout the reign of the Ottoman Empire wherever they went. Anyways, Zayn simply cannot act on his true nature. For Allah is always watching, and it would be hard to even perform it in secret if Zayn wasn't as fussed about that, given he's a public figure on TV most weeks. In 2025, Kross, much like Reigns before him, pieced together that Zayn secretly craves a big hard eggplant. Kross was working a devil's advocate type character. Sure, no hair, but not nearly as cool, no great taped promos, and now has Scarlett, who, for anyone who heard her talk in GCW recently, now understands why WWE kept her so quiet.
Remember who the true f***ing indie god is. Shotzi f***ing Blackheart, your new champion.
Alright, gay.
Kross began getting on Zayn's case, constantly hinting at Zayn's life as an imposter, a man with skeletons in his closet. Now, at a glance, Kross was really just questioning Zayn's standing as a morally upright figure in the WWE. Let's remember, Zayn spent a long stretch of his run in the promotion as a largely comedic, often weaselly heel act. But within that same continuity, Zayn went on a lengthy redemption arc, starting with his refusal to contribute to Kevin Owens' bloodline beatdown back at Rumble 23. By 2025, old Sami is a pure babyface act. He fights clean. He doesn't resort to dirty tactics between the ropes or on the mic. So what exactly was Kross truly getting at? At WWE Night of Champions in front of a Saudi Arabian crowd, Kross employed mind games in his showdown with the underdog from the underground. Frequently, Kross invaded Zayn's personal space, particularly when the former masked man was in the corner, Kross pressing his barely clothed, sweaty body against Zayn's, taking glee in the unease he was causing his foe. As Zayn fought back desperately from the erection likely forming in his tights, desperate to avoid such humiliation, in front of a crowd counting on him to represent them, a crowd whose home nation hero, Mansoor, went in the kind of direction Kross was clearly trying to drag out of Zayn here. Shocking stuff, just shocking. Ultimately, though, due to being a total jobber with a severe allergy to victory, Kross lost, doing what he does best, anything but win. And Zayn's closet door just about remained. Kross, incensed at doing what he was born to do, jobbing in the midcard and then whining about it on social media, was not ready for this already slow-paced, dragged-out feud no one was really that interested in to end just yet. In a truly shocking display of homoerotic symbolism, Kross viciously jumped Zayn from behind with a big, hard pipe on a show called Raw. It was clear what we were meant to glean from this. Not only was Kross out to get Zayn over his closeted desires, he had his own bubbling to the surface, the pipe. A phallic symbol representing symbolically what Kross really wanted to hit Zayn with from behind. Shocking. I'm absolutely shocked. Despite having Scarlett and her fun bags on hand as his missus, Kross's obsession with Zayn took precedence. All he could think about was this guy. Zayn was not the only man with a shocking, backdoor booty banditry secret to sit on. This whole feud, as plain as day, was about two closet homosexuals, uncomfortable with their true nature in the often hyper-masculine world of professional wrestling. The hard piping weakened Zayn enough for Kross to do the unthinkable. He won a match, on TV no less. In a Raw rematch absolutely no one asked for, Kross defeated his hated rival / secret love interest, leading to a final showdown at SummerSlam. The stipulation was clear. If Zayn lost to Kross again, he would have to admit the unthinkable, haram truth of his situation.
Ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that? What's that, brother?
In a spot of good news for Sami Zayn, though, Triple Nose often throws away his toys, and Kross, a long-time disappointment who'd struggled for years to recover from his infamous bondage master burial back in 2021, was on the chopping block. The general fan interest he received this year was simply too little, too late. And SummerSlam marked his farewell for now and hopefully forever. Yeah, that's right. The guy sucks, right there, I said it. Are you happy now? Zayn won, and the truth of his urges remains hidden. For now. Shocking stuff, but far from the only example. Next, let us look at the most blatant wrestler of all. Let us look at Zest Fruity Rollins. Long before his time in the WWE began, the then Tyler Black made clear his propensity for swinging in more than one direction.
Stretch down, up, and down, and up, and up, and up. You stay back!
Shocking. I'm shocked. Oh my goodness. Shocked. I'm shocking. Alright, that's enough now. Clearly this man got into wrestling for a little more than just the pursuit of fame and glory. Fast forward to the WWE, and for a long time, Rollins was a fairly straight-laced, no pun intended, performer, serving as either a sinister, title-hungry heel or a redeemed, down-to-earth, working man babyface. This decade, however, ever since his infamous feud with Bray Wyatt at the end of last decade, slowly but surely the truth of Zest Fruity Rollins has come climaxing to the surface. Sporting costumes that reference gay icons of old like Elton John, Liberace, Liza Minnelli, and of course his wife, Becky Cringe, Rollins limp-wristedly prances to the ring and laughs like a drunk uncle at an incestuous family reunion. His true nature became more apparent than ever in 2024 when he looked to help his old rival, Cody Rhodes.
Oh, succotash, Cody! I'm so sorry!
Rhodes was in a heated feud with Roman Reigns and The Rock, a man he'd handed his Wrestlemania main event spot to, only to then change his mind, and yet somehow The Rock was the one in the wrong. Whatever. Rollins, who'd had an unhealthy obsession with Rhodes in kayfabe back in 2022, now sought a new way to get close to the American Shite-Mare. He offered to be Rhodes's shield. Okay.
Alright, guy.
A campy, flamboyant chap, offering to be an inanimate object one must hold close to their body at all times, reaching into the behind of it to keep it in place. What exactly was Rollins really trying to say here? Cody Rhodes is a happily married man. To a woman. Rollins couldn't just out and out say what he really wanted. Dashing Cody, let's remember that. He comes into WWE back after all these years in 2022. He beats Zest Rollins. He beats him again, during which he's all over Rollins' tights and rear end for the pin. And finally whoops him in the Hell in a Cell despite having a torn pec. Rollins is torn. He can't stand losing to Cody, but other feelings have developed from Rhodes's looks, if you can call them that, to his gutsy determination. Rollins realizes he's developing feelings for a new man. After that Hell in a Cell match, which in fairness was excellent, he shakes hands with Rhodes and tries to show him some love and respect, but struggles with his feelings, turning on him, and even trying to tear him out of his clothes before it's broken up, all in primal lust. This is clearly the story of a man in love with another man, but sadly Rollins is not Cody's type. Now look, Vince McMahon was still in charge back in 2022, but let's remember, Rollins is a Triple H protege and has been since his NXT days. Could the nose have been involved in this colourful character work behind the scenes? Maybe. Fast forward, and with the stench of all those losses to Cody wearing off, Rollins finally tries to get back in with his secret love, the man of his dreams, Cody Rhodes.
He's a guy who's beaten every opponent he has gone up against, except the letter S.
He'll be his shield, as we just discussed. He wants to shield Cody. Get behind me, Cody, I'm your shield. Get in behind and close to hold your shield. And he commits bum knee and all, sacrificing his title reign and body in service of saving the man he so desperately pines for. And that's the final heartbreak at WrestleMania 40. A victorious Cody Rhodes walks over to Seth Rollins, who can barely walk. He's a useless cripple. He needs to be put down like an old horse. And Rhodes offers a strictly in the friend zone handshake. And you saw the tears in Rollins' eyes as he finally accepted that Cody would never, ever be the ledger to his Gyllenhaal like he'd so hoped. Rhodes stands tall with his wife and friends as Rollins hobbles out, limping for his sacrifices for Cody, rather than limping from the Cody pounding he'd likely masturbated to the thought of time and time again. And in the time since, as Rollins has moved back into heel territory, he has remained hesitant to engage with Rhodes heading into WrestleMania 41. Rhodes was given a tough choice from The Rock, something that we will get to shortly. Rollins, in a women's jacket seemingly, got all serious, or tried to. How can you be serious looking that stupid? Anyways, Rollins was reminding Cody of who he is, how he's above bending. For the final ditty, he should be standing behind the Monday Night Sodomite instead. And since then, while the love for Cody Rhodes is clearly still there, with Rollins refusing to fight him even since fully turning heel, he's found a new man, a young bull to groom in the form of Bron Breakker. Exhibit A, the night after WrestleMania 41. Bron Breakker charges into view, helping Rollins fend off Roman Reigns and CM Punk. Rollins is thrilled at this hunky, shirtless 20-something batting for his team. That's my boy. My toy boy, more like, Rollins probably wanted to say. Wrapping his arms around Breakker in affectionate, handsy lust. At the time, Rollins was on his way to no longer being friends with fellow secret sword swallower Sami Zayn. In a shocking display, Rollins and his new hole stretcher, Breakker, put a beating on Zayn for resisting their evil ways. Zayn always fighting the good fight, getting his 5 prayers in a day as he gets ahead of his own man-on-man violation of nature desires. Desperately looking for peace and safety as a supposedly straight man in the public eye. Now look, Breakker is gearing up to hit a spear. That's right, a spear. A supremely phallic symbol representing Breakker's status as a powerful young tup, I believe they're called, when Rollins, sporting a gigantic dressing gown from Pakistan, one of the largest consumers of gay films for adults only. It's a stat, they love it, look it up. Anyways, Rollins, sporting that gown of closeted pride, backs Breakker into the corner, their bodies touching, faces close, hints of an impending kiss permeating between them. When Rollins turns his back and backs into Breakker, crack to crutch, reminding us all who's on top in this shockingly filthy alliance. Rollins bursts free from Breakker, spurting into a curb stomp on Sami Zayn. The symbolism is clear. Breakker has exploded into Rollins, his spear igniting a crescendo through the former Shield member. Shocking. It's like a William S. Burroughs novel out here. And it doesn't stop with Breakker. Oh no. The other members of the Vision, not the Marvel hero apparently, not that one, no. They often seem quite handsy with Rollins as well, frequently fondling Becky Cringe's strap-on recipient, especially from behind. The Vision is clearly a sinister quartet of homosexual criminal interest, bending, no pun intended, the rules of sports entertainment to their sick, depraved, perverse will, spreading their agenda among wrestlers and fans alike. The Vision is just that, a snapshot of a future Rollins and his original daddy Triple Nose long for, one where everyone swings for their own team, where everyone is on the wrong side of the ballroom, if you catch my drift. And then we get to Seth Rollins' main obsession in kayfabe, CM Punk. Old Punker at a glance seems largely innocent of the shocking propaganda and symbolism we've discussed thus far. He's a grumpy, middle-aged man who loves hitting on barely legal NXT women's talent, with a former women's WWE Superstar wife at home. but Rollins' obsessive cruelty towards him is starting to rub off on him. Heading into WrestleMania, CM Punk was owed a favour from Paunch Hayfat. Of all the things Punk could have asked this snivelling, penny-pinching, compulsive-lying scumbag, he requested Hayfat simply walk him to the ring at WrestleMania. He frequently droned on about the importance of his friendship with Hayfat, as Hayfat more than once went to kiss him.
All right, gay.
Not on the lips, that would be a bit too blatant, but all the same, it just looked a bit curious. Punk is cruelly betrayed by Heyman via a hand, right to the genitals at WrestleMania, with Heyman's hand staying between Punk's loose, jiggly thighs for an oddly long time. And since then, Punk has only grown more frustrated with Rollins' frequent attacks on him. This reached a new level when Rollins pretended to be injured for a while heading into SummerScat, which worst commentator of all-time contender, Scheitel Cole, called the ruse of the century. What absolute horse.
That's horse.
As if costing himself a match with LA Knight at Saturday night's main event and walking around on crutches for a few weeks like an idiot to cash in his money in the bank in a way he easily could have had done any time he wanted was some kind of brilliant, logical work of storytelling art. Ridiculous and retarded, terrible combination. And since then, the symbolism of Rollins' closet homosexuality has never been clearer. In recent weeks, he's taken to hiding behind his wife, his beard, Becky Cringe. A woman who calls herself the man, no less, using her as his cover in wrestling, as he does in his personal life, to throw less eagle-eyed fans off the backdoor shenanigans sent leaking from every pore on him. Cringe is his beard. I just said that. Protecting him from an angry, maybe heterosexual man like CM Punk prying into his business. But things have cranked up a notch now that Punk is fighting fire with fire, bringing his own wife back to protect him from Becky Cringe, AJ Lee, a 38-year-old woman on testosterone replacement therapy, skipping around in Chuck Taylors, like a barely mentally developed teenage girl, serving as Punk's shield as, could it be, his own beard. Two men obsessed with each other, hiding behind their wives as they continue to exclusively focus and obsess with each other. And next we get to one of the most evil, devilish angles in the history of the WWE, and one that Triple Nose himself, by most accounts, was not the mastermind of, and not even really a fan of at all. That being said, it appears to have largely been booked by one of his contemporaries, under his watch, and just happens to be full of the humiliating, degrading, homoerotic themes and subtext the nosy one displays in his own booking. Coincidence? I think not. This year, Dwayne Johnson returned to completely ruin his highly acclaimed work as the final boss heading into WrestleMania 40, after initially retconning the whole angle to be Nice Rock again and pals, with not only Roman Reigns, but bizarrely his 2024 nemesis in Cody Rhodes as well. Rhodes was well into his first reign as WWE Champion on the road to WrestleMania 41, and The Rock revealed that he wanted Rhodes to go even further than just being the surprise new face of the WWE over the past couple of years or so. The Rock wanted the Roadster to be his champion. A man he could turn into a global mainstream star, larger than the mere confines of the squared circle. A man with millions of Instagram followers, the true measure of success in this life, apparently. And The Rock wants Cody Rhodes' soul. The Rock, a Hollywood fixture, no doubt well versed in the world of show business degeneracy and Satanism, was turning the ugly reality of the showbiz hierarchy where, as Marilyn Manson once said, to swim you have to swallow. A man whose back passage may well have been plundered in order to star in such high art masterpieces as San Andreas, Skygaper, and Cuck Adam. Dwayne Johnson, that is, not Marilyn Manson. The Rock wants all of that for Cody Rhodes. He's turning all of that stuff onto Rhodes, and he started getting awfully handsy with the Roadster, touching him up, caressing his face, kissing his cheek. It was all just becoming a little too Sean Puffy Combs for some tastes. Shockingly, Cody Rhodes revealed himself to actually be one of the few heterosexual-coded characters left in the men's division, once and for all, when he outright refused The Rock's offers of a sold soul and a sore anus for success, confirming himself as a man of the people who would never bottom for Travis Scott.
Hey, Rock! Go yourself!
And we're not even gonna speak about what happened with John Cena after that. It was a disgrace. It was a bad fart that will always linger around Cena's otherwise mostly storied career, when his retirement run is officially over in December, presumably. I do plan to do a full video essay on it. Not that anyone cares, of course. Anyways, this angle lifted the veil on what top talents must face on their way to the top, in all entertainment fields, not just wrestling, where demonic casting couch menacers are awaiting them with prying eyes and bottles of fresh lubricant. Where merit is simply not enough, one's bazoo must be sacrificed. Again, shocking stuff, I'm shocked. And speaking of WrestleMania 41, before we move on to a surprise women's queer-coded angle, something almost unheard of in the typically man-on-man focused world of triple nose erotica, the main event of night 1. CM Punk versus Roman Reigns versus Zest Fruity Rollins. We've spoken in depth about Rollins, but let's just take a look, and it pains me this next one, let's just take a look at Roman Reigns. Once a rising star, who then became a joke, who then became a true titan of the industry, and yet, since losing the world title last year to Cody Rhodes, Reigns' star power and value has diminished. The road to WrestleMania this year showed why, as he and CM Punk entered into a bizarre dispute over who had the rights to Paul Heyman's very likely flatulent, fecal tract. Heyman had been Reigns' manager for most of this decade, and back in 2012 and 2013 he was also Punk's manager until a strange feud began over Punk turning back into being an unlikable, self-righteous babyface. After operating as a bitter heel for the closing stretch of his never-ending, rating-sapping, house show ticket sales destroying run as WWE champion at the time. The feud was self-indulgent and poorly developed, relying heavily on dirt sheets and shoot history between them, as well as Brock Lesnar at his absolute laziest in the character work department. And an absurd example of turbo-nepotism when Curtis Axel, the dull-as-dishwater son of the great Kurt Hennig, got an inexplicable push despite being boring in appearance, work rate, and personality. The big three, as it were, he didn't tick a single box.
And starting this moment, from this moment on, this will be the moment, starting now, of the genesis of McGillicuddy.
Oh, and there was also Heyman's blatantly homosexual relationship with Ryback at the time, though we can't pin that on Triple Nose. Anyways, Triple Nose does book for short-term memory spastic retards though, so everyone just acted like Punk and Heyman had always been buddies and there'd never been a blood feud where Punk made it his mission to beat the hell out of the mastermind behind VCW. Reigns starts getting jealous of all the time Heyman is spending with Punk. Punk, meanwhile, doesn't think Reigns treats Heyman well. And finally, the favor. Heyman owed Punk a favor for helping the original Bloodline beat the Wish.com Bloodline in War Games. Of all the things Punk could get from this weasel, he goes with Heyman walking Punk out at WrestleMania. Heyman has already arranged for Punk's ludicrously stupid triple threat with Zest Fruity Rollins and the Tribal Queen to be the main event of night 1 of a Bargain Bucket extravaganza.
Main event night 4 of a buy one, get one free extravaganza, and then get released faster than you last in the sack. When you come back, I'll still be here.
Your mama.
And during the signing, Heyman kisses Punk. Kisses that greasy-haired, toothless mook. Not on the lips, that would be too blatant, but all the same, it's a bit weird. Reigns' blood is boiling. Even though he has a wife and kids at home, it's become clear he's actually a bisexual chubby chaser, and Heyman is his prey. Do you remember when Reigns was cool for several years? Well, it appears Triple Nose and T-Gay-O are determined for you to forget that time. At Wrestlemania, Heyman again kisses Punk during his entrance.
Alright, gay.
Again humiliating his current man in Reigns. These two treated Heyman like Miss Elizabeth in 1989 during this build. It was a disgrace. And in a shocking twist that everyone saw coming a good 2 months at least in advance, Heyman winds up siding with Seth Rollins over the two men he's been very close with over the years. Rollins, the most blatantly queer main event character in WWE history, and Heyman sides with him by hitting Punk and Reigns with low blows. Low blows where his hand just stays in the targeted area for an absurdly long time, lingering around their most private areas for one last shameless feel-up before leaving with a man far more open in his dalliances with other men.
You are not gay.
Yes, I am!
This whole feud was actually a love square. 3 men and their disgusting, compulsive eating manager. Shocking stuff, just shocking again. And Triple Nose's sick determination to queer code Roman Reigns as a chubby chaser reared its ugly head again heading into Clash in Paris. Bronson Reed mentioned he's of Samoan heritage. Reigns, very disturbingly, then said that if Reed truly is Samoan, then his ass, his chunky, cellulite, man-ass, belongs to Reigns. So now, not only is Reigns a chubby chaser, he's also got a thing for Samoan men, and likely incest by extension, given everyone in Samoa is related. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. This actually taints his feuds over the years with guys like Jey Uso and Solo Sikoa. It paints them in a deeply disturbing light, in hindsight. Horrifying stuff. Now, obviously, I'm sure you've heard many famed YouTube grifters talk about it. There is an agenda afoot to make men in particular look weak, stupid, and disconnected from regular romantic relationships in media these days. Disney's efforts in the MCU and Star Wars in recent years are prime examples, where no one is allowed to be attracted to anyone of the opposite gender in any meaningful capacity, and women's be the strong ones, while men's worry about their hair and Instagram followings or something. Total reversal of reality, basically, where men do all the hard work. Yeah, that's right, I said it. Step out of your house, look around at all the buildings around you. You know who built them? Men. Now shut up. And in the case of Triple Nose, his obsession with soft, gay undertones is primarily targeted at prominent male talent, but we have seen an exception to that rule in a recent time with a woman on so much gear. She might actually accidentally turn male someday, you never know. That is, of course, if the stress of hating all those wrestling fans who ensure she makes money. Wrestling doesn't get to her first. Rhea Ripley, the mistress of Trenbolone herself. Bland, repetitive promos, horrible pump-handle finisher, strange determination to resemble a trans Marilyn Manson, as if the man himself hadn't given us a good enough idea of what a trans him would look like. And a deeply disturbing obsession with condemning fans for daring to recognize her in public places. Oh no! Look, if you don't want to be famous, why did you work so hard to be famous? Go back to Adelaide, shut your mouth and take a retail job, and then get back to us on what real pain is. This year, Ripley has spent a lot of time feuding with Iyo Sky, with some Bianca Belair peppered over the top at one point for good measure. And while the feud itself absolutely sucked, as Ripley can exclusively say either "Mammy always on top," or some BS about never losing her title even though we all saw her lose it on the road to Wrestlemania 41. It's also lent a very curious dynamic between her and Sky. At Evolution 2, a self-pat on the back show where all the women's wrestlers come together to destroy kayfabe and congratulate themselves for being strong, powerful queens who've never drawn a dime, Sky and Ripley had a very strong match together that was ruined by Naomi cashing in to have a brief title reign where she let grown women step on her pregnant stomach, ensuring the Samoan wrestling family, which is just the Samoan family because, as I've said, everyone there is seemingly related. She just ensured that family line may well have a Tyrion Lannister or an Elephant Man situation born into their ranks next year. Fetal damage is no laughing matter. Since then, Whipwee and Sky's growing respect for each other has blossomed into hints of something more. Sky is back to hanging out with Asuka, and Jubby Sane of late, a quasi-Dumig Kratul reunion. And they don't like Sky's bond with a smelly white gaijin like Whipwee, let me tell you. And granted, yes, there are some dark racial undertones going on here, but that's a video for another time. Here we'll just focus on Whipwee and Sky's desperate need to hug each other. Longing, loving hugs as bosoms are pressed together, not that I'm complaining, as the two constantly run out to save the other from heel beatdowns before more hugging. All while Sky's presumably heterosexual pals look on in disapproval. Now look, it's a lot tamer and less blatant than the male stuff, but there are hints of lesbianic longing here, as two polar opposite women bond through their physical competition with one another. All of that action leading to confusing new feelings beyond the wrestling ring. Anyone who's seen Personal Best knows this is how it goes sometimes.
Anytime you're ready.
Alright, gay.
As longing looks in the locker room and in the game itself transform into a love that goes beyond the professional boundaries of competition. Shocking stuff again, I'm shocked. And Whipwee is, as both the booking and WWE Unreal have shown, Triple Nose's favourite women's wrestler. And everyone has the right to a favourite wrestler, it's all good. Nothing wrong with Triple Nose believing in a performer's talent, obviously, but as we saw on Unreal, the fandom goes beyond, well, fandom, as Triple Nose constantly plants this woman half his age, with awkward hugs, up in her personal space, telling her just how damn delightful she is. Triple Nose has got googly eyes, and he's gonna push his dream woman front and center, no matter what. Whipwee is at, or at least relatively near the top of the women's card, nearly all the time, and isn't it curious that Triple Nose's dating life just happens to match up with finding a muscle-bound mammy like Whipwee to be peak attractive? For many years, Paul Levesque was known to be in a real-life relationship with China, the ninth wonder of the world, a woman more jacked and built than half the men's roster, in a time where it was policy for the men to actually have committed gym routines and be over 200 pounds. It was a much simpler time. And in the early noughties, China began changing up her look, slimming down and adopting a more feminine aesthetic, less Miss Olympia, more Wonder Woman. And wouldn't you know, Triple Nose moves on, determined to climb the social ladder of the then WWF however he can. Romancing someone exclusively working there on account of being born from Vince McMahon's seed, someone who's had their entire life handed to them, talent or intellect, be damned. Now, at the time, old Stephanie was fairly normal-looking, bar those enormous silicone enhancements she picked up, but the longer she was with Triple Nose, the more muscle mass she put on for quite a while there. Coincidence? I think not. Once again, shocking stuff. And then we remember the lame's cheeky confirmation of his own preferences that one time on Monday Night Raw, back when the show was actually watchable, a long time ago now.
There's a lot of bad things I am, but lingual's not one of them.
Alright, gay.
And now we see the fuller picture. The nose is mixing the masculine with the feminine as men become more emotional and women more CrossFit bro-esque. As stars begin batting for their own teams on screen and every angle revolves around hints of the homosexual. But why? What is the reasoning here? Why is Triple Nose peddling these ideologies and themes to the masses week to week? Is it all him? Let's just remember his wife wanted to make, allegedly, a young Brock Lesnar play a rainbow gimmick, if you catch my drift. And this was decades before Lesnar's trouser-ripping Chippendale shenanigans this year, or his alleged water sports interests and mistress sharing with old Vince McMahon. Lesnar back then was a beast of a man, in the best possible sense of the phrase. Is this a McMahon-Levesque deal? Or could it just be directives from TKO? who have also made the UFC a disappointing cheapskate festival, severely lacking in stars, action, or effort. Just Dana White's fat tomato head, holding a phone vertically, to let us know on Twitter X that interchangeable, generic lesbian, probably from Brazil, will fight no-name American chick who wishes she was a man because her father didn't treat her too good, for a shot at the UFC, irrelevant bucks ticking, Women's Division Championship at a future show no one cares about or will watch, and for the few who will watch it, they will not watch it legally.
I told you guys already, we'll get Aspinall versus Jones done. John Jones called us last night and retired. John Jones is officially retired.
Your mama.
Could TKO be behind this shocking, subversive agenda to bend all of our favourite entertainment mediums into a 90-degree angle? Desperately trying to encourage impressionable viewers to become ankle grabbers in the bedroom, carpet munchers, anything but a routine relationship that could lead to a family. Shocking stuff. I'm shocked. Absolutely shocked. Ugh. I will leave these deeply disturbing trends and patterns open to interpretation for you, the listener. And just remember, if you feel this has been a little distasteful, if you feel that I haven't given the alphabet community a fair shake, or had a representative of them in this video, guess again, there is a representative of them. You, the listener. But for all my regular listeners, just remember, noticing this stuff means you're a filthy homophobe. Which means fear, phobia, phobe. This is how they hijack the language to undermine those who dare to call out their poo piracy. You're afraid. You're not paying attention. You're not raising eyebrows, you're not asking questions, no. You're a scaredy cat. A yellow-bellied, lily-livered loser. That's right. A man without fear, apparently, is a man with the inability to critically think. Fascinating, the more you know. Otherwise, if you're not a no-good filthy homophobe, you yourself are gay. And that would be fine. This is what's interesting, though. Being described as gay in this scenario by these people, it's actually used as an insult against you by those who proudly wave rainbow flags in solidarity with those lifestyles. They're now suggesting as a mocking joke to undermine you with. And it can only be a mocking joke if they think there's actually something wrong with it. Shocking. Food for thought. I guarantee, without fail, that if this video somehow miraculously receives a decent number of views to warrant a diverse array of comments, you will see both of these things, probably in bulk too. But we will not be silenced. Words are just wind. Comments are but blue light on a screen. Make wrestling great again. Fire Triple Nose and friends.
Homosexuality.